The New York Jets are now on the board.
Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Being in New York has been one of the greatest blessings.
Zach's Fifth Avenue ran that one right now.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to another episode, NFL Draft Preview. Ethan Greenberg joined always by the Athletics' Dane Brugler. We're talking tight ends. The Jets just signed two of them, CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. So, Dane, I assume that if we were going to have this conversation a couple months ago in Mobile talking about the Trey McBrides of the world, Jeremy Ruckards, we would have assumed there would be a good chance that maybe the Jets would look into them day 2, day 3. Now, maybe not so much the case, wouldn't you say?
I think that's fair because, and again, like we touched on earlier, these two guys both being day 3 picks are prime examples that you don't have to go that direction. And especially in this draft class where there's some good tight ends who will go on day 2. Trey McBride's still a solid player. Greg Dulcich from UCLA, still a good player. Jeremy Ruckards kind of been out of sight, out of mind because of that foot injury at the Senior Bowl. Still a really good player. But you can afford to wait 4th, 5th round. You're still going to get a good player. And again, especially in this draft class where tight end, not a top heavy position this year, but once we get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, it is one of the deepest positions in this draft.
So how do you rank the top 3 tight ends, let's say, right now on your board? And where do you think that they'll go in terms of round?
It would be McBride, Dulcich, and Ruckert. McBride being a guy that does not have one elite trait, but he's just good across the board as an inline blocker, as a guy that is not going to drop the football, very strong at contact, can run routes, can get open, give you enough space for the quarterback. So McBride's just an all-around good player and someone that's going to play in the league for a long time. Dulcich has a little more explosiveness to him, a little more after the catch ability. So you feel like a guy that's going to help you put points on the board. As a blocker, leaves a little to be desired. He's more of a move tight end, that F tight end. And so different, a little bit different type of tight end. And then with Jeremy Ruckert, the same type of thing with McBride, a guy that has a lot of ability, just maybe not one thing that you look at and say, okay, that's going to separate him from other tight ends. Just a really solid player who has yet to play his best football, but he's a solid blocker. He's a very good pass catcher when he's targeted. So, and with the foot injury, you might be getting a little bit of discount with Ruckert, but all 3 of these players should be off the board somewhere on the back end of day 2.
So let's talk about this tight end group. Rather, let's focus on day 3 because that's more seemingly where the Jets could add a tight end, figuring that they just signed 2 guys. So if the Jets want to go in that direction on day 3, we've talked about Jake Ferguson before. I know you like him as a reliable player, but who are some other guys that should be in that mix as well for the Jets?
One guy that's really caught my eye throughout the process is Daniel Bellinger from San Diego State. A big guy, 6'5", 253 pounds, ran a 4.63 at the combine, which is an outstanding time for a guy that size. 7.05 and a 3-cone is terrific. Did not have a ton of production, receiving production in college. Just wasn't targeted all that much. But a guy that had 5 touchdowns over his career. And when he was targeted, it's something that good things usually happened. And so again, you look at the receiving production, and it's nothing that's going to blow you away. He never reached 360 yards in a season. He got past 65 yards in a game once in his career, 43 career games. So doesn't have the high end production, but he's a big athlete who can move and he can block. And so there are some, I think, instinctive issues there with his route running in terms of just getting open, but natural body control. He cleanly catches the football as a blocker, strong-minded, competitive, assignment sound. So, a guy that's not going to blow you away when you just look at what he did at San Diego State on paper, but a detailed blocker, a natural ball skills, toughness. I think he brings versatility. He's going to come in and be that immediate backup wide tight end, and then maybe he ascends to being more later on in his rookie contract.
Where do you stand on someone that we have not discussed who is at the Senior Bowl, and Isaiah Likely?
Yeah, a really athletic player who is, likely to go somewhere in that late late day 2, early day 3. He's more of that, again, that move tight end, that F tight end, 6'4.5", 245 pounds. He had almost 1,000 yards receiving this past year. He's a threat at all 3 levels. So he can take a screen and be a threat after the catch. He can work the middle of the field. He can work the seam, track the ball over his shoulder. So a productive catch and run target, big plays all over his tape. I think he had 5 catches of at least 55 yards this year. So usually you're not getting that from a tight end, but with likely fluid adjustments on the football, he'll give effort as a blocker. But that's just, he doesn't have the frame for that, where he's going to routinely snap in, snap out, give you movement in the run game. That's not necessarily his game, but he's just a productive player through the air. Playmaking potential, a loose athlete, and a guy that can come in and compete for snaps as that F tight end.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the tight end talk with, give me your best blocker in this draft class. And if your best blocker, let's say you're going to say Jeremy Ruckert, let's just say your best blocker on day 3, somebody who really can handle himself in the run game, because if the Jets were to draft a tight end, wouldn't be surprised if his prowess were in the run game, considering what they want to do up front.
I think that Cade Otten from Washington, it deserves a little more attention. If he were healthy, I mean, he got hurt late in the season. It was a left ankle injury. First time he's ever been hurt in his life. And that knocks him out of the Senior Bowl, sidelines him for the Combine. If not for that injury, we'd be talking a lot more about Cade Otten. He could be one of the top 3 tight ends. He is my 4th tight end in this class, and still a guy that has a chance to go top 100. But, he's a guy that is 6'5", 250 pounds. He takes his blocking responsibilities very, very seriously. And he has that inline competitiveness where he can latch and drive. He can hold himself at the point of attack, resets himself on the move so he can sustain his blocks. And then he also has the instinct. So both in the run game and the passing game, he knows what angles that he needs to hit. He knows his landmarks. So as a blocker, I think Cade Otten is an ascending player. Then as a receiver, I could say the same thing. He is a good route runner, check that box. A good catch point finisher, check that box. I think there's nuance to what he's doing out there. So Cade Otten is going to be a terrific value for whoever drafts him. And it's a shame we haven't been able to see him yet throughout this process.
That's a perfect way to put a bow on this episode of NFL Draft Preview. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.